Okay, hi everybody. It's just after 10. Sorry, we got a little. There we are. A little bit. I'm doing something different today with the webinar. So there's a little change in technology, so I had to work through that this morning. But good to see everybody, and I hope you can all see me. Here we are, March. Happy March. Happy Tuesday. It's time for our Tuesday weekly webinar. So if you haven't already done so, hit the like, subscribe, and notification button so that you make sure that you receive these videos as soon as they're posted. So we'll do these live. So this is a live video. So every now and then I make corrections during the video, but then we package it up. And usually by the end of the week, I like to send them out Saturday morning to our email list. So if you're on our email list, you receive these recorded videos. And but this is a live video. And if you're watching this and you're not on our email list and you want to be, you can go to our the website and sign up for the weekly webinar email list, or you can email us at questions@attleboroughwealth.com. That's questions@attleboroughwealth.com. And I'm hearing over and over again that people are not necessarily always watching the videos, but some people are listening to it. So I'm going to try to explain some of the things that I'm showing you, but I do use whiteboarding a lot, and I show examples. So if you are just listening to this, whether you're in your car or on the treadmill or whatever, you may want to come back to the video to watch what I'm talking about. So today our outline is going to be a little more condensed. I've got a big topic to talk about at the end of the webinar during our Financial 15 portion. And this week is, I'm talking about this dangerous financial information. And today we're talking about is waiting to collect Social Security a scam. So the reason I say that is because I'm responding to a video that's out there that reads, collect your Social Security at 62, ! Waiting is a scam. And it's by this guy, Sarasota Tim. I'm sure he's a very nice man. He is not a financial planner. He's not a financial advisor, but he's putting forth this financial advice that, in my opinion, is dangerous for folks, especially en masse. And in not the video I'm going to share with you today, but in another video, he talks about how he's helped thousands of people collect their Social Security early, and that is concerning. But I'm going to do a bit of a series. I'm going to next week talk about Dave Ramsey and his outrageous advice regarding withdrawal rates. But today we're going to focus on this collection of Social Security. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, we're going to go over our slot report. We've got at least a slot mailbag. I'm going to see where we are at that time. We're going to talk a bit about the markets, and then we're going to jump into this discussion about Social Security. So good morning, Doug. Good morning, Leighton. Good to see you both. We've got some upcoming events. We've got a live class scheduled at Holy Family University, basically right across the street from our office, starting on April 25th. It's going to run April 25th and May 2nd. They're your two Thursdays. And your two Tuesdays are April 30th and May 7th. If you're on our email distribution list, you will certainly get an invitation to that once those emails are, once those invitations, so you'll get an invitation to that once those invitations are available, and then and you'll be able to attend if you're in the area. And then we have, I think I told you, the two Thursdays, 4:30, April 30th and May 7th. So two series of classes there at Holy Family University. On May 23rd at the Newtown Theater, we're going to have a screening of The Baby Boomer Dilemma. Folks, I've watched this movie, and it is so good. There are economists from around the country, PhDs, well-respected individuals who are talking about the importance of planning and using all the tools available to us to achieve a successful retirement. So this is really, really important for you. So come out and join us at the Newtown Theater. I sent you all the 5-part series of the McKnight podcast. We did a client webinar a couple weeks ago with Cornerstone Portfolio Research. That was a client-only webinar. And we are getting really, really close to launching Attleboro U. This is going to be an education-based website. That's where all these videos are going to be held. I'm going to have a few on YouTube for the public, but it's mostly going to be for you folks, our clients and members of that Attleboro U organization. So I'm really excited about that. The workbooks are coming together nicely, and it's really going to be fun. It is fun putting it together. Last Wednesday, I was invited to be on a webinar hosted by a fellow who's got 15,000 advisors he helps around the country. And 13 to 15,000, something, a large number. And so I spent an hour with him over, at 12 o'clock Eastern time, talking to these folks about, some of the things that we do differently here. And it was really an exciting discussion and a lot of fun. And this is one of the individuals who is setting up the mastermind group where I'm going to be with just 10 financial planners from around the country. And I'm excited about that. And I'll tell you more about it when I return next week from that trip. All right, so let's jump into our our Slott Report. So we're going to start with our Slott Report, and that is, I'm going to share my screen here. So we're going to talk about Roth conversions and qualified charitable distributions, and this is the Slott Report mailbag, and this is from our friend Andy Ives. Folks, charitable distributions have become such a hot topic and such an important tool in tax-efficient planning. I was talking to a woman yesterday who she's very charitably inclined. She does not have any children of her own. Her husband, unfortunately, passed away. And I was showing her where over her lifetime we could gift, accounting for her needs, of course, gifting directly to charities, because she donates to a bunch of them, and it's really commendable. About $2 million given, or $3 million, depending on how long she lives. So we're checking at different points of her gifting strategy to a charity. So why is that important? Because she's very concerned about rising taxes. And one of the ways that we reduce the risk of that tax rate risk is to convert funds from traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs. But you don't want to do that for funds you're considering leaving to a charity at the end of your life or that you can gift during your lifetime. So people get caught up in this Roth conversion. It's very exciting. It's a really great tool, but you don't want to over convert. And if you're charitably inclined and you make sure that your needs are taken care of, let me say that again, you make sure your needs are taken care of and you're going to be gifting to charities anyway, you want to make sure it's the retirement dollars that most likely make sense to go to the charity, because you're not going to pay tax on that and the charity won't pay tax. You do not want to convert traditional IRA funds from traditional IRAs to Roth IRAs and then leave those to charity. That really is a waste of every dollar that you paid in tax. So charitable qualified charitable distributions have become a very valuable tool. So we're going to hear more and more about these, of course, through the years. So here's our first question from Andy. So how many times in 1 year can a person do a Roth conversion? Thank you. So this is an example of confusing information. A person can only do a rollover one time a year, every 12 months, right? It's not January to January. It's your own 12-month cycle. People confuse rollovers with conversions, and I get it. I get it that these are confusing words that are used and techniques, and people often will say rollover to me when they mean conversion. So I get it. So the question is, how many times in 1 year can a person do a Roth conversion? The answer is a person can do an unlimited number of Roth conversions in a year. Roth conversions do not count against the one rollover per year rule, so there is no concern there. Each conversion in a calendar year will have the same start date for the 5-year conversion clock, January 1st of that year. So whether you do a conversion today, March 5th, 2024, or whether you do a conversion 12/31, don't wait this long, but 12/31, 2024, the IRS sees them all being done as January 1st of that year. So essentially, multiple conversions in a single year will be combined and considered one big conversion for the 5-year conversion clock reporting. Really, really great question. So this next question is about QCDs, or qualified charitable distribution. Can a QCD be made from a 401k or a defined benefit plan? Again, these are getting really, really popular. So this is a great question. Here's your answer. QCDs can only be made from IRAs and inactive SEP and simple IRAs. Simples are IRAs. A QCD cannot be done from an employer plan. However, employer plan dollars, like from a 401k, could potentially be rolled over to an IRA, and then the QCD could be completed. A few more important QCD items to consider. The IRA owner must be at least age 70 and a half to do a QCD. Remember, you have to pass that 70 and a half birth date. We got to start celebrating half birthdays again. The QCD cap. So here's where I am. Let me find I'm right here. The QCD cap for 2024 is $105,000 per individual. The donation must be directly transferred from the IRA to the charity, although a check made payable to the charity can be sent to the IRA owner for hand delivery to the charity. So that is a really important. I wanted to make sure he captured that right. Can't be made out to you as IRA owner and then you write a check. The check can be made out to the charity from your custodian and then you take it to the charity, but it has to be made out directly to the charity. And nothing can be received in return for that. You can't get a Yeti mug. You can't get a pullover. You can't get a trip to, the Bahamas for that contribution. Nothing can be received in return for that donation. All right, let's push through to this. I think we're okay with time. So 4 common IRA mistakes and proper correction if available. So again, this is from Andy. Andy writes, year after year, many of the same IRA errors happen again and again. Based on the volume of times these mistakes occur, it seems appropriate to create a short list of repeat offenders and offer some advice on how to properly move forward. In no particular order, here's a handful of common IRA mistakes along with the proper corrective measures. And folks, if you're one of the advisors who attended the webinar, the advisorist webinar last week, and you've joined us, so there were about 40 or 50 people that subscribed to this YouTube channel during that webinar. I can't stress enough how much I recommend you joining the Ed Slott Elite Advisor Group and go to these education. You have to go. If you're part of the group, you have to go. You have to go twice a year, really, to be able to learn all these techniques and really become the best financial advisor that you can be if you're focusing on distribution planning for retirees. If you want to be a hedge fund manager, it's not the group for you. So rollover, the first repeat offender is rolled over a required minimum distribution. Oops, RMDs cannot be rolled over. Technically, an RMD is not an eligible rollover distribution or an ERD. If an RMD is rolled over, it is an excess contribution, and the excess contribution rules must be followed. You have until October 15th of the year after the year of the excess contribution to make the correction with no penalty. Prior to the deadline, the rolled over RMD must be withdrawn along with the attributable earnings. No special tax forms are required, and there is no penalty. Any earnings are taxable after the October 15th. Any earnings are taxable. After the October 15th deadline, only the excess must be withdrawn. The earnings can remain. I know it's weird, he says. File IRS Form 5329 and pay the 6% annual excess contribution penalty after the October 15th deadline. Number 2, contribute it to a Roth IRA for a child with no earned income. Your child must have earned income to be eligible for a traditional or Roth IRA contribution. If a contribution is made to an IRA for anyone with no earned income, it is an excess contribution, and the same excess contribution correction protocols outlined above must be followed. Number 3, took 2 IRA distributions with the intent to roll them both over. The one rollover per year rule does not allow 2 separate IRA distributions to be rolled over within a 12-month period. Combining them into a single deposit won't work. Is there a fix? If you are still within the 60-day period, one of the distributions can be rolled over. Usually a person will choose to put back the larger of the 2 rollovers. Since the other distribution cannot be rolled over, and since you will be stuck with the taxes anyway, might as well put it into a Roth IRA, assuming you are still within the 60 days. This qualifies as a valid Roth conversion, and conversions do not count against the 1-year rollover per year rule. Why do you have to be within those 60 days? Because otherwise it's a contribution, and you may not be able to contribute to a Roth IRA at all, and the distribution amount might be larger than what the contribution amount is allowed. 4, non-spouse beneficiary tried to do a 60-day rollover with an inherited IRAs. Oh no, he writes. Andy writes, there is no fix for this scenario. This is what we refer to as a fatal error. Non-spouse IRA beneficiaries cannot do 60-day rollovers with inherited IRA dollars. If you take a distribution from an inherited IRA as a non-spouse beneficiary, taxes will be due. Those dollars cannot be rolled over, converted, or redeposited back into the same inherited IRA. Folks, this happens all the time. People get bad advice from their brother, uncle, cousin, friend, somebody on YouTube, something like that. Be careful where you're getting your information from. Number 5, taxes withheld on Roth conversions when under 59.5. I've seen this. This is a sneaky mistake. Taxes withheld on a Roth conversions do not get converted. If you are under 59.5, this is a problem. If you're under 59.5, you can do a Roth conversion. That's an allowance in the tax code. There are a few exceptions to the 10% penalty for taking funds out early out of a traditional IRA, and early is prior to 59.5. Roth conversions is one of them. They allow you to roll it into a Roth, but you can't withhold the tax out of that conversion. The taxes withheld are, in fact, I'm at this section here. The taxes withheld are, in fact, a premature withdrawal, and a 10% penalty will be due on the money sent to the IRS. However, if caught in time, there is a fix. If still within the 60 days, the amount withheld can be replaced with money from another account. Use other dollars to make up the withholding. Put these makeup dollars into the Roth, and the conversion will be made whole. Now the taxes originally withheld will be a credit to the IRS. Potholes and speed bumps abound with IRAs. Drive carefully, Andy says. But know that if you do bump a curb, there's a good chance proper corrective action is available. So if you have questions about any of these issues, you can reach out to us at questions@attleborowealth.com. That's questions@attleborowealth.com. All right, we're going to move quickly into the markets. So our analysts, I just have some updates from our analysts, Cornerstone Portfolio Research. So what happened last week? We had durable goods orders. Orders for goods meant to last more than 3 years fell more than expected in January, dropping 6.1% compared to the 4.5% fall expected. So what's the analyst take on this? Business spending appears to be somewhat cautious, in keeping with many of the comments heard during earnings season, but investment continues and spending shows no signs of falling off a cliff. The PCE index came out. The Fed favored inflation gauge rose 0.3% month over month in January, while the core rate rose 0.4%, both in line with expectations. On a year-over-year basis, headline PCE rose 2.4%, while core, which excludes food and energy, rose 2.8%. The analyst writes, after several hotter-than-expected inflation readings in February, investors appeared relieved that the PCE came in as expected. The downward trend in inflation appears to have at least paused, and the Fed has noted members need to be more convinced that the bank's 2% goal can be reached. ISM manufacturing, the index fell 1.3 points to 47.8, continuing to be below the 50 mark that separates manufacturing expansion from contraction. The new orders index also slipped below 50 to 49.2, down 3.3 points in January. So what does that mean? Manufacturing remains sluggish, but the ISM chairman notes that any reading above 42.5 for this index indicates overall economic expansion. So hopefully a balance, when we're talking about potential recession. So this week, today we have ISM services. Really the big one, there's a few this week, but the big one is the labor report on Friday. So we'll see with inflation being sticky where the effect this has, that labor report has on the markets. Okay, so let's see. Let's just check in with some of the details of the markets last week. So the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.11%. The S&P 500, however, was up 0.95%. So the Dow is up year-to-date 3.71%. The S&P 500 is up year-to-date 7.7%. The NASDAQ was up 1.74% and is up so far this year 8.42%. The Bloomberg U.S. Aggregate Bond Index was up 0.47%, but still is showing a loss so far this year of 1.3%. And really mixed across international markets, but not a lot of movement last week. The small companies, the Russell 2000 was up 2.96% last week, bringing it to a year to date of 2.43%. So a lot of movement in small companies. All right, let's jump into our Financial 15 section here. And this week's Financial 15 is dangerous financial information is waiting to collect Social Security, a scam. So I talked to you at the beginning of the weekly webinar about this. This is a video I came across. I think somebody mentioned it to me. Hey, did you see this guy who's talking about the benefits of collecting Social Security at age 62? And it's really compelling. So I went and I found this fellow named Sarasota Tim, and I'm going to share some of the parts of the video. But if you haven't already done so and you're joining us for the first time, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification button. And if you want to go back and reference that weekly webinar I was talking about, you can look that up on our website. You can find us at attleborowealth.com. That's attleborowealth.com. Find that website, or go into the Resources Center, Education Resource Center, and you'll find our weekly webinars. So, I want to talk to you about this financial information that's coming from YouTube. I understand that I am coming to you through YouTube, and I understand there's a bit of, not irony, that's not the right word, but there's a bit of a hypocrisy about me saying, be careful who you listen to about financial advice or financial information from YouTube. This channel that I provide is really about education. I've been in this business now. I've been studying this and doing this since 2001. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm very proud of that. You've heard me talk about my involvement in the Ed Slott Elite and Master Elite Advisor Group. I've been studying these things for many, many years. I feel very confident and qualified to bring you this information. But I'm not an expert on every topic either. There are things that we are absolute expert in, and things that I've been called. David McKnight is referred to me as one of the top tax efficient planners in the nation. I appreciate that. So let me say this, if you're one of the several financial advisors who may be joining us today for the first time coming from the webinar, I did a webinar last week with an organization of financial advisors where I was talking about, some of the strategies that we use. And we had a lot of financial advisors from around the country who joined us. So if you're one of those folks and you're not already a member of the Ed Slott Elite Advisor Group, I just can't urge you enough to get in touch with that group and attend a 2-day event. And if you use my name, I think you save something like $500. I don't get anything for that, but I'm happy to have you use my name to get that discount. And if I see you at an event, please come up and say hello, and you should join. You should join the group for sure, because you'll get constant education, and that's been so beneficial to me since I became a part of Ed's group many years ago. But, I told you I'm a certified financial planner. There's a lot of education and training that goes along with that. I'm very proud of that. There's not enough of us in the country. There's not enough folks in the Ed Slott Elite Advisor Group. There's only 400 or so, just a few over 400 of us in the Ed Slott group in the entire nation. And if you want to find out what I'm talking about that is also on my website. Go to attleborowealth.com, and there is a Slott corner where you can pull down information and learn all about the Ed Slott Elite Advisor Group. But the reason I'm telling you this is that because people are creating YouTube channels, and like this fellow Sarasota Tim, who is, I'm sure, a really nice guy. I've only watched a couple of his videos, but it seems that he retired early. I don't know if he's from Florida, moved to Florida, and he seems to be living a good life. He collected his Social Security at age 62, and he's telling you all the reasons why you should also collect your Social Security at age 62, and therein lies the problem. Social Security is very, very complicated. There are a lot of considerations to take into account before you make that election, because it's probably one of the most important decisions you're going to make for your retirement. So Sarasota Tim, I'd love to have a cup of coffee with him. I'm sure he's a good guy. He is not a certified financial planner. He is not a Social Security expert. He does not have the education and training needed to be offering this financial advice. It is really kind of scary that people can just put this out there. And again, the reason I'm bringing it to you, I'm going to give you some numbers here. Let's review the numbers here. So Sarasota Tim's YouTube page has 63,000 subscribers. It's a very respectable amount. In the YouTube world, it is really quite a big amount. I'm certain that Tim's getting revenue from that YouTube channel. I don't know how much, but I'm certain it's something pretty significant. This one video has over 250 views, 250,000 views, 256,000 views as of the last time I looked at it, which was right before this recording. It has 8,300 likes. These are big numbers, folks. And Tim will say, he says on his videos that his channel really popped when he talked about Social Security. So he's likely to continue talking about Social Security. This is, YouTube is about a lot of things, and it's certainly about marketing dollars. All right, so I adjusted my screen here just so I can write on it a little bit better. But YouTube is certainly about entertainment and about the marketing dollars that comes in. So it's about money for YouTube, and the more outrageous the comments and topics, they get more views. So this, the title of the video that you're going to see is "Collect Your Social Security at 62!" Waiting is a scam! Scam is all in caps. So that gets a lot of attention. Wait, the government's trying to scam me? I better take my Social Security early. But I read through some comments, and actually Tim had said, I've helped thousands of people collect their Social Security at 62. Well, Tim gets money for this. And that's a concern of mine. More views equals more money. That's why they have these outrageous claims and comments. But he's helping people. He's emphatic about it. He says, this is why I collect it, and you should too. He doesn't say this is why I collect it, but every situation is different. And you should consult a financial professional about these decisions. That's the right thing to say. If he stood up and he said all those things, the situation would be different. But let me share this video with you, and then we'll go through some of the items here. So just stay with me here. So I'm going to introduce you now to Sarasota Tim. And I'm going to play this along. So we're going to listen to this together. It runs about 6 minutes, a little bit more than 6 minutes, but I cut out a little bit. But let's listen to Sarasota Tim together, and we'll jump in as we need to.
But we're going to use the full retirement age, which is 66 and 8 months for me, but let's round it up to 67 years old. So that's 5 years that I'm collecting Social Security earlier than I would have if I waited till 67. In those 5 years, I'm going to collect $102,000. So let's say I have a twin brother and he collects at 67. From what everybody tells me, you get 8% more each year on your Social Security by delaying your benefits. So at 67 years old, you would get you would get $2,380. I get $1,700. My brother's going to get, my hypothetical brother, he's going to get $2,380, $680 more. That's about right? You guys agree? It's about $600 or $700 more you get by waiting. Not to 70, it's even more, but it's 67. That's 40%. At 8% a year from 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67. It's 5 years. 8% times 5. If you just add 40% to 1,700, you get $2,380.
So let me just stop there. This is kind of where it starts going off the rails. So, and again, this is not a criticism of Tim because this math is complex. So there's two glaring issues here. First of all, the difference between 62 and 67, 67 is your full retirement age. 62 is a reduced rate, and the reduction is 30%. 30% of what your full retirement age would have been, your primary insurance amount, it's called your full retirement age amount, would have been is it's 30% of that. So the 40% is wrong. The 8 times 5 being 40, that's wrong. But you would think that actually it would give him a better starting point, or it would make his position stronger, but it doesn't. And I'll show you the numbers in a bit. But the reason it doesn't is because there's an important thing that Tim is missing, and that's the inflation factor, a cost of living allowance that's built into Social Security. Now, it's been large over the past few years, right? With the inflation that we've had, there's only actually been a few times, I think it's 3 times in the past 30 or so years where we've had zero in inflation increase. But so you can count on an inflation increase, and the average that I show is 2%, and I think that's a reasonable average for discussion purposes and for illustration purposes. But Tim misses that, and what's really important about that is that inflation is compounded. So that increase is compounded. So when you have that 2% increase, on top of your benefit, and that increases every year and then increases on top of that, that's compound interest. I think it was Albert Einstein who called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. And if it works against you for debt and it works for you in situations like annuitized payments from Social Security or interest. But Tim is missing that altogether. So the math is wrong from the beginning, and then he's completely missing the cost of living allowance and the compound interest on the cost of living allowance. And we'll go over the numbers in a second, but let's let Tim finish some more here.
So now you get that big check that everybody says you're going to, is worth waiting for. You get the big money coming in now. All right? Now what people don't tell you, what they lead you down the wrong road, or I call it as a con, is you have $680 more in your check. I've got $102,000 in my pocket, in my savings account, or money I've spent living life, taking cruises, vacations, investing some of it, whatever I want to do. And I can still work a little bit and make more money and just have freedom, in my health. Let me make one point before I continue with the math. This is about your age. Please consider this, folks. When you're 67, you're older than you are at 62. And things start to happen.
All right, I'm going to skip over this part because he's correct. He's talking about, how active you are at different ages, 62 to 67. And that is, a 5-year difference can make a difference. But he uses a peculiar analogy comparing the ages from 62 to 67 to 12 years old to 17 years old. It just doesn't make sense to me. So for the sake of time, I'm going to skip to the next section, and we're going to go to 750 here, where he gets back to the math.
Get back to the math. So let me bring you back to square one. I get 1,700. My twin brother, he waits. He gets 2,380. After 3 years, my brother, he has collected, and he's got a whopping at 70 years old, he's got $85,680. All right, because he started only 3 years earlier. I've been collecting since 62. I'm now up to $163,200. He's at $85,000. Now let's just end the video here, and let me take you to the very end. My twin brother and I, unfortunately, died at 80 years old on the same day, and we drew our Social Security for 18 years and 13 years respectively, because he waited 5 years. At the end of that time, I drew a total of $367,200 in 18 years. That's assuming that it never goes up. We're just using, hypothetical here. $367,200. But because my twin brother got all this extra money, and he collected it for the same period, and he didn't die, and he lived to be 80 years old, he caught up. He even went past me. He collected $371,280 by getting that big $680 more a month for 13 years, and died at the same day as me at 80 years old. That's a difference of, are you ready? This is the kicker. Are you listening? $4,080 my twin brother ended up getting and collecting more than I at age 80. And that is a whole $313.85 more average he got per year, and a whopping $26.15 more a month. So you tell me where this big giant increase in you're going to live so good by being older and getting this few $100s more money, and you may not even live. No, I have.
All right, so we'll stop it there, but you see what I think you see what I mean. So Tim very confidently and very assuredly gave you these numbers and said, this is why you should collect. It doesn't collect at 62 instead of waiting. It doesn't make sense. This is a scam. And he goes on to say, he called it a con, and he goes on to talk about this, but his numbers are all wrong. He's discounting the cost of living allowance. He's discounting the compound effect on that cost of living allowance. And the numbers are much different when you're looking at that. There are other things he didn't consider. He didn't consider a spousal consideration. He didn't think about a spouse at all. And what happens if, in fact, he passes at age 80, but his spouse lives to 90 or 95? He didn't even, he used a very low life expectancy. So even the IRS, the Social Security, considers the average life expectancy for a male to be 84 years old. For financial planning experts, we do our planning out to 95, 100 years old because people are living longer. So to make these decisions based on faulty math, very short life expectancy is just dangerous. And this fellow who is not licensed, who is not educated, who is not trained for this kind of advice is convincing thousands of people to collect their Social Security early. And that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention, because somebody mentioned it to me and it's dangerous. So let's talk about the experts. I told you Social Security is very complex. I'm not an expert in Social Security. I will absolutely share that. But I have an expert on our team, and this expert is Heather Schreiber. Heather Schreiber is certainly one of the top Social Security planning experts in the country. I met Heather through the Slott organization, and I would ask her questions. And a couple years ago, she said, well, you can just hire me for that. So let's see what Heather has to say about that. So I was talking to Heather about this, and I had her watch the video. I said, Heather, tell me what you think about this. And here are Heather's comments. She said, Mark, first of all, there are several assumptions that, in my humble opinion, are a bit flawed and border on negligence. First of all, he assumes a lower than average life expectancy in both scenarios, 80 and 70. He goes on in the video to talk about age 70, but we're not going to play that. Nor does he mention any cost of living assumptions that come with Social Security. By filing at age 62, he's locking in a lower bump for the rest of his life. So receiving a cost of living allowance, if it's 3% or 2% at $1,700 compared to $2,400 is, of course, a big difference. And that's where that widening effect happens. Because it will be based on the lowest benefit possible, she says. Heather goes on to write, the other glaring thing that is missing is that he never mentions Tammy in this scenario. He can't talk in terms of break even without discussing his spouse, particularly if she is a low earning spouse, because his claim at 62 means that she will inherit 82.5% of his primary insurance amount, his PIA. Fortunately, the SSA, Heather writes, that's the Social Security Administration, does protect widows in this situation by what's called the widow's limit, which gives them the greater of his benefit at death. In his case, it would be 70% of his PIA, remember, because he collected it at age 62, or 82.5% of his PIA. So there is a ability there for her to collect a little bit more, but still will have a great effect. If, in fact, they were married and she's collecting a survivor benefit. Heather writes, I do completely understand the logic of wanting to spend it while you are in your go-go years, but not everyone can afford to retire at 55 and live to 100 and still file at 62. I think he is unrealistic. And the reality is that 70% of people over the age of 65 will experience a long-term care event, and few are equipped to pay for it. And guess where it comes from? Yep, she says their Social Security checks. So, again, Heather Schreiber, she's one of the best in the country as far as Social Security strategist, and I did get her feelings about that, and you read her words. So Heather also ran some analyses for me. So this is what we use at Heather for, not only her actual words that she and opinions she has about things, but she runs these really great strategy reports. So let me show you what we're looking at here. So I just wanted to show you the real numbers because I told you that unfortunately Tim's numbers are flawed. Because I want to show you, so here's Tim, so we'll just use a T, starting at age 62, compared to his hypothetical twin brother who started at age 67. So you'll see that the cumulative amounts are actually much greater. There's a much greater difference, and that really has to do with the first the erroneous math, but then the compounding of the cost of living allowance. So you'll see here that Tim's cumulative value, and this is assuming Tim's age of death at age 80, like he said. Now, that is not a fair assumption for planning because, as I said, sure, he might pass at 79, 80, 81 years old. Even the Social Security Administration gives him till age 84. But really, you don't want to rely on those low numbers for an assumption. I think 84 is fair because that's what the Social Security Administration tells us is the average age. We can count on those numbers, but just making arbitrarily up an age of 80 because that kind of fits this narrative, it doesn't make sense. If you're a person that may have health issues and you may not be around past age 75, 80 years old, something like that, then your decisions are going to be different, but you should still look at your situation, have somebody run the numbers for you and somebody who knows the math behind this and can really present you the actual numbers. Again, not a knock on Tim. Social Security math is really challenging. The number that Tim gave us was $4,080 collectively, cumulatively by age 80. The actual number is $36,275. So what that means, $36,275 less, is that Tim gets $36,275 less than his hypothetical brother. That's the difference between $433,662 at age 80 from 62 to age 80 compared to $469,937 from 67 to age 80. Now, you can see in these tables here, I put these side by side. Make sure you can read these. I understand this might be small, but what we're showing here is the collection starts at age 62, goes all the way till he passes at age 80. So his last full year of collection is age 79. But just let's look at that. If Tim would have waited, or his hypothetical brother as comparison, starts at 67. His first year of collection, his benefit is $29,000. Next year is $32,000, again for inflation. Tim's still at $22,000 over here because he collected early and he starts at that discounted amount. But look at these amounts here. There is just about, when they're both age 76, because they're twin brothers, there is just about a $12,000 difference that they receive in that year. So you can see, again, that divergence, the difference between collecting early and collecting at your full retirement age. And then, of course, that last year is $40,000 compared to $28,554. And here are your cumulative values, $433,000 compared to $469,000. So I know that might be a little small on your screen. I hope you can see that. Maybe just come in closer. So here are the cumulative value differences again, $433,662 compared to $469,937. So moving on, I have a couple more charts here. So what if we add that spouse in? So what if Tim and Tammy are actually married, or the people listening on the YouTube channel actually have a spouse, and the spouse decides to collect at 62, and even if she collects early, and Tim decides to collect at 67, and again, this is using that same life expectancy of 80 for Tim. Well, actually, then it gets much greater. The cumulative value, so the total amount that's collected over both of their lifetimes, is over $1 million, and the difference is $110,000. So by choosing to collect this benefit early at 62, for both of them, Tim and Tammy in this example are leaving $110,000 on the table. If they choose to wait a little longer, Tim collects at age 70, Tammy at age 67, and you can see they actually get $43,000 more on top of that. So folks, these are really important decisions again, and they should be very individual decisions, right? So it depends on what your situation is. If you have a spouse, if you don't have a spouse, what your individual collection benefit numbers are. And you should consult a financial professional for this, not somebody on YouTube, because you shouldn't even take any guidance that I'm giving you right now from YouTube on this matter, because this is about education. This is not about your need, your specific need. I always say that. I give examples and I say, but everybody is different. And you should have a discussion with a certified financial planner or a financial planner if it fits your needs, and to make sure that this is the right thing for you, and to do your own calculation. So this goes on just to, again, show the breakdown of how this rolls out regarding the spousal collection and the difference that it makes. And I just gave you the cumulative numbers. Now I want to take a look at, what if we just increase this? Remember the comparison that we did using Tim's example of dying at age 80. Well, forget about the math difference for a second, but what if he just makes it to age 84? The average life expectancy that Social Security tells us it exists for males. So let's look at the difference here. Well, this spread gets so much larger. If Tim and his hypothetical brother live to age 84 instead of age 80, like on the video, just 4 more years, well, there's an $87,000 difference between age 62 and age 67. Holy cow, folks. That is significant. And really, I think I've shown you that, first of all, you've got to know the math, and you've got to know the rules, the Social Security claiming rules, and the effect that these decisions can have. And it is not simple. It is very complex stuff, and you've got to work with the right professionals. I'm telling you, I'll say it again. I am not a Social Security expert. I am expert in a lot of areas. Tax efficient planning for sure. Financial planning for sure. Investment management, investment strategies for sure. But Social Security is very complex, and that's why I have someone like Heather Schreiber. Again, I'll just bring Heather back up here, her picture for a second. That's why I have someone like Heather Schreiber on our team. Heather's one of the best in the country, and I've hired her to, on a retainer basis, she reviews every one of our client scenarios and is very, very helpful to our team. Not just, the conversations we had just recently about this video are similar conversations we have with clients. Okay, what if this claiming strategy, what if they do this? They're really thinking about age 62, but can we show them reasons that might work or might not work? It's all very specific. Might I have a client that I recommend they take their strategies, their benefits at 62? Maybe. I don't think I ever have, but maybe. But it's all dependent on what their needs are. I'm not one of those people that always says age 70 either. All right, let's make sure we hit all of our topics for today. So we talked about the numbers, for the kind of the why behind this. Why do people put out these videos like this? Well, again, I'm sure Sarasota Tim is a very nice man, and he's got all good intentions. He really seems to be a good person. But listen, he's trying to drive subscribers. He's trying to get more views. He's trying to get more likes. All this equals money to him. So you can't fault him for that. But, you gotta, he's not a financial advisor. He's giving out financial advice. He's not qualified to do so. He can talk about his own experience, but he should not be so forcefully, in my opinion, telling people what they should do. Tim, if you're listening, just tell people, make sure you seek the guidance of a qualified financial professional. The calculations do not include cost of living allowance. There's only been a few times in history that we have not had cost of living allowance. Calculations don't include compound interest on the cost of living allowance. Huge difference there. And of course, the compound interest on cost of living allowance greatly increases the value of waiting. Considerations for spousal benefits. Holy cow. It can have such a big impact if there's a spouse involved. We talked about Heather Schreiber's comments, and we talked about Heather. I told you that one of my concerns is that Tim talked about helping thousands of people receive Social Security benefits early, receiving them at age 62 instead of any other age, whether it's 63, 64, 65, 67, 70 years old. He's locked in. You should take it at age 62. It's different for everybody. It may be the best option for Tim, but this is rarely the best option. Other considerations. Other income you may have. You get a reduction in your Social Security benefits if the Social Security benefit or Social Security Administration says that you earn too much money. Those thresholds I don't have here. They're listed on the Social Security website. Taxes, of course. Your own cash flow needs. Spousal benefits. Now, listen, I list cash flow needs. Again, there might be good reasons to take your Social Security at age 62. One of them might be, I really need that income now. But you have to look at everything, and it is specific for you. If it works for you to take Social Security at age 62, you should not be advising other people to do it just because it worked for you. Spousal benefits. Social Security math and planning can be confusing. One of the most important decisions you will make is how and when you're going to collect your Social Security, and proper, thorough financial planning is vital. So again, folks, this was not about calling out or picking on Sarasota Tim. I respect what he's done on YouTube. I caution him on giving financial advice. I know that Social Security and Social Security topics are one of the most searched topics on the internet. I get it. That helped pop his channel, as he said it. I know that means more money in his pocket. I'm not trying to hurt this guy. I'm trying to educate you to be careful about where you get your financial advice from. YouTube should be about financial education. It should not be about following advice from somebody who is not qualified to give it. I think that covers everything for today. Okay. I want to thank you all for joining me this week. Appreciate all the input and all the suggestions and all the feedback I get from you folks. I love the comments, so be sure to fill out those comments. If you have thoughts about webinars you'd like to see, send me an email. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. I look forward to seeing you all next week. We're going to talk about Dave Ramsey and his withdrawal rates. You may have seen some information about this on YouTube, but I'm going to go over it, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and concerns. Thank you, and have a great week. Take care.